for Women in Defence Charter. I've been given the honour of chairing today's discussion, bringing together Women in Defence UK and the Women in Defence Charter to discuss building the future defence workforce. How can we all work together to attract and develop future capability? Now, I know that there's at least one person who was on yesterday's discussion, and we're hoping that today's theme will build on that. Yesterday, we were discussing why people capability matters for defence readiness. We explored how leadership, skills, workforce capability, and organisational resilience underpin defence readiness across government, industry, and the armed forces. So, I'm hoping I speak for all of us when I say that we understand that the future strength of defence really depends on our ability to attract, develop, and retain the skills needed to meet increasingly complex challenges. As technology evolves, workforce expectations change, competition for talent intensifies, building a sustainable pipeline of future capability has become a strategic priority across our sector. So today, I'd like us to explore the opportunities, the pathways, the partnerships needed in order to develop next generation of defence talents and ensure that our sector remains an attractive and accessible destination for future skills. I'm really pleased to be joined by Shah Davies, who's an RAF veteran with 22 years of service. Shah now works as the inclusion lead within the employee experience team at AWE and is part of the Women in Defence leadership team. Shah's passion lies in building workplaces where belonging is tangible, difference is respected.
We go to the martini, which is there.
Oh, Emma, can I ask you to go on mute, please?
That's more to the gas.
Thank you. Shah's passion lies in building workplaces where belonging is tangible, difference is respected, and inclusion drives performance. So welcome, Shah. Thanks for joining us. And we've also been joined by Aidan Wood, who's the Defence and Security Director at Matchtech. Aidan has 17 years of experience helping organisations with talent strategy, delivering talent solutions in our sector. He's also the Deputy Secretary and Engagement Lead for the Women in Defence Charter. So welcome, Aidan. Lovely to have you with us today. So let's get into it. Defence readiness. This is the buzzword at the moment. It's often discussed in terms of equipment, platforms, investment. Increasingly, however, readiness is also dependent on having the right people with the right skills available at the right time. So how do we build the future defence workforce to enable this? To help frame this discussion, I thought it would be really good to start by exploring what defence readiness means to both of our panels. So, Aidan, I'm going to start with you, if I may.
Thank you very much, and absolute pleasure to be here. For me, readiness, I really like the way that you framed that, because I think in a lot of terms, when we look at the news and the press, and when we talk about what's coming through in DIP, a lot of that is around platforms, it's around equipment. And for me, working in the skills sector, it's really acute that we need the skills to deliver that. So it's awesome that there's more funding coming through, and maybe even more coming through with a new Prime Minister. However, I think the latest reports looked at the skills need to deliver the Defence Investment Plan, and I think it's about 85,000 additional people would be required in order to deliver that. And it's awesome that the Strategic Defence Review is talking about workforce crisis and workforce readiness, but I'm not sure the gaps are there to be filled at the moment. There's a huge amount of work to do to get skill readiness. So for me, readiness is always about that ability to deliver in an evolving landscape, and we are exactly in that. But actually, it's all about the people. Yes, we've got automation. Yes, we've got AI. We can make things a lot slicker and a lot more efficient, but we need people. And I think that for me at the moment is where our biggest gap is. If we look at people as a supply chain, there is a critical a critical gap there for a lot of organisations if they're to scale to meet the demands of the defence sector.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, 85,000, that's quite a gap.
It is.
Shah, how about you? What does defence readiness mean to you?
What he said. No, only checking. Yes, again, thank you for having me in this discussion. So yeah, I'm gonna agree with what Aidan said there. People is the key piece. Yes, we've got the infrastructure, we've got technology, we've got all this development, but if you haven't got people and the skills to be able to use, to teach, to develop people in using all this new gadgetry or something, or wizardry, then it doesn't matter really. But it also, the skills that we've got now and the skills that we need in 10 years time, when the new aircraft comes out, the new missile system comes out, our new defense system comes out, those skills we might not have them now, so we need to build up to those skills as well. What do we need in 5 and 10 years time? So people is the key, and it's not just people having skills. Can we help people develop those skills? A lot of things I've seen, especially when I was in the military, when I was in the Air Force, a lot of people have a lot of experience, but that one person had the experience. That experience and that knowledge needs to be spread out and given to other people, so other people can move into that role. If something happens to that one piece, that single point of failure, something happens to that person, other people need to step in, have that defence readiness. Yes, I can take that on. I can move forward. So defence readiness for me is, yes, have all this new technology and everything coming in, but it's having the people, the skills and everything moving forward with it, so we can take whatever's coming towards us head on.
Yeah, great. And actually you started touching on sort of my follow-up question there, which, yes, it's about the people, so it's plugging that gap of that 85,000. It's bringing the right skills into the industry. But in terms of workforce readiness, what more is it than just making sure we've got the right number of people and the right skill sets? How can we ready our workforce to prepare them to meet the complex challenges within our industry of tomorrow? You've just touched on it there, Shah, about utilizing that breadth of experience and using that as a development piece out. Can you both think of anything else that you sort of define as that workforce readiness criticality? If I could say that word. I don't know, Shah, if you want to carry on.
I'll carry on with that. So with me, and I think this brings my role in at the moment, and I could take my role from the Air Force into it, is having the right support for people to be able to carry out, to learn more skills or to develop their skills. New diversity support, for instance. So have we got the right software for people to use to help them? Because there's a lot of really amazing people out there. They just haven't got that right piece of software or that supporting work to be able to that final jigsaw piece to give them that level playing field, almost, to be able to go and do the courses, to develop themselves, to have that confidence, say, yes, I can do that. Yes, I want to do that. Yes, I want to go in that direction. So it's having the right support in place within work, whether there's policies, whether there's training, whether it's your soft skills, like talking on forums like this, for instance, to build people's confidence up to and stuff like that. So I think that's a big piece for me.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Aidan, anything to add to that?
I think for me, a lot of organisations will measure their current headcount versus their expected, budgeted or targeted headcount. And I think the landscape on that needs to change, whereby what we're actually measuring is, have we got enough people, but have we got the right skills, but have we got the future proof to backfill the vast amount of people that are coming up to retirement? Have we got the capability, the supply chain and the resource opportunities to flex up and flex down and meet surges? And I think that's something that, for me, if a lot of the defence enterprise really looked at themselves in the mirror, some will be on target for where they need to be today, some won't be. But actually, I think all of them would struggle to have a really clear strategy around how they meet flex, surge and those big fluctuations in demand. And I think one of the biggest challenges I'm sure anybody recognises in the defence sector, and we see acutely, is organisations have this kind of bathtub kind of graph of skills. So what we've got is we've got a lot of organisations that have over recent years invested in early careers, which is fantastic. We want to see more of that. They've also got a lot of people at the back end of the career that they know are retiring in the next 5 to 10 years. And what they've got is this middle part where the lack of skills investment, if we go back, I don't know, 10 years ago, and the number of apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships, early career opportunities and graduate roles was much lower, there's a real gap. And for me, that is a fundamental challenge for the sector. And that will evolve because the high number of graduates at the moment will work through. But what we need to really consider is how we build pathways to pivot people that want to get into defence but can't, and pivot people that are displaced by AI, or pivot people to be more multi-skilled, so that what you can bring is you can bring career experience into new skill areas. And I think that for me is really critical, and I think I'll probably build on that a little bit throughout this conversation. But for me, workforce readiness, it's got to be that ability to meet the adapted needs, and I don't think the sector's really there just yet, and there's more we need to do.
Yeah, thank you. And just a plug for yesterday's conversation, there was a part of that focused on work returners and the talent pool there that's often overlooked. But we won't go over that ground because that's been done and recorded. But I do urge you all to go and listen to that, because that was a really interesting part of the discussion. And actually, leading on from what you were just saying there, Aidan, about I guess the need to flex and the gap. Carly's put in the chat that defence readiness increasingly depends on accessing scarce technical skills, yet our national security considerations can limit our reliance on international talent. So already we're excluding, a huge potential there. So, how do we see the balance between strengthening our domestic capability and attracting global skills, and what practical steps should industry and government take to achieve both security and competitiveness? Because at the moment they seem to be conflicting. Have you got any thoughts on that?
I think that's a brilliant question. I don't know if I can do it justice in the answer, but I think certainly what we're starting to see is that as volatility around the world increases, there's actually kind of an increasing requirement for higher security clearances on certain programs, and actually that's just going to make the challenge even worse.
Yeah.
For me, I would take us back to March 2020 when COVID hit. Organisations could not do certain things. People could not work from home. They could not have the flexibility. And then suddenly overnight, the defence sector enabled it. And yes, that was painful. Yes, it was hard. And maybe it wasn't perfect, but they enabled it. And what I've certainly seen since then is the defence sector sort of creeping back to security. I'm not going to say an excuse, because that's completely unfair. It's for the right reasons, and we've got to protect our security. But for me, the impetus to find other ways, can we so if somebody's doing a piece of technical work, can we declassify some of the information in that so that they can work on the design, but without access to? Now that creates more work, and I think this is also compounded by the skills challenge, skills shortages. They haven't got enough people, so then it takes more people to do that, so then it sets you backwards. So I think the whole thing is a bit of a domino effect and a bit of a spiral. But I'd love to see COVID attitudes to why can't we coming back into the sector again. I think there's a big opportunity there.
Well, and that's where having true diversity of thought comes in, because it makes people approach the problem in a different way. Shah, do you have anything you'd like to add to any of that?
I do again agree with Ada with that. With security, is very it's very not complicated, but it can be very long and drawn out. So security clearance could take especially DV clearance, up to 6 months, 7 months to get. So if you want to get people into those gaps, into those roles now, can you look at the role, as you said, can you look at the role? What security clearance do they need for that role? What are they going to be having been privy to and all that? So can we go down that route? But when you're looking at the vetting system, we're asking them the questions. Is it time for them to have a look at and go, yes, let's have a new fresh eyes or something like that, but security is one of the top. Health and safety, security, outweighs a lot, a majority of stuff. One of the ways the military, I believe, if they still do it, so please correct me if I'm wrong, is if you're in a Commonwealth country, you can recruit from a Commonwealth country. So, but then there are some security things around that as well. Is that something else that we can look at as a defence company? So not just the armed forces, not just the military. Is that defence companies can look at that or something along those lines? Just throwing that thought out there, obviously. But yeah, security is one of the bigger things with it, especially within where I work as well. It's getting people in. So many people want applying for roles, but as soon as they find out you go wait 8 months for security clearance, they're off somewhere else because people want something now. So it is a big burden. Yeah.
Yeah, an ongoing challenge that we're not going to solve now, but certainly something that needs a bit of brain power towards it to help overcome it as such a blocker potentially. So we sort of alluded to the fact that as part of being this defence readiness, the increasingly complex challenges that we're facing, the competition for skilled people has never been greater, and that's not just, I guess, within our sector, but defence is not only competing with itself, but it's competing with every sector, looking for engineers, cyber specialists, technologists, future leaders. So do we feel that defence has a recruitment problem, or do we feel that it has an attraction problem? Because they're two very different things. Or it could be a combination of both, but I'm keen to get your thoughts on this. Shah, shall we start with you?
I think it's attraction and perception. So if you speak to anyone who doesn't work in the defence industry, so if I speak to my friends at home, because most of them are teachers who work at NHS, think about defence, they automatically think they're going to put uniform on and they're going to be in the armed forces. So straight away, the perception is if you work in defence, you're going to be wearing a uniform and defending the country. And then Dad's Army springs into the conversation. I was like, okay. So I think
you might be showing your age a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. So I think the perception of defence needs to change, because defence needs, as you said before in the lead up in the question, Louisa, that we need cyber specialists, we need lawyers, we need HR professionals, we need project managers, all these, so many different jobs and so many different specialists within defence. So it's not a case of you put a uniform on and you need to go fix an aircraft like I did. I was an aircraft engineer, now working in HR. So we need all sorts of people, all sorts of jobs, all sorts of roles that then come under the defence umbrella, so then we can defend the nation. And I think it's that perception, again, people to realise that, it's not going to be dangerous. I'm not going to be put on an aircraft and off I go to somewhere not nice. So I think it's the perception is the main thing.
Yeah, so educating people that defence is more than putting a uniform on, defending the country, or it's more than if you're in industry working for a weapons manufacturer, which again has a lot of potential negative press at the moment. Aidan, do you have anything further on that?
So Shah, agree with a lot of what you're saying as well. I think I feel that there's more that needs to be done at a government level. I think quite understandably, defence has got a lot of negative connotations from some of the stuff that's happening in the Middle East at the moment, and that's very difficult to ignore. I think what we're not doing is we're not talking about how important defence is at home and the safety and security that I'd certainly say my generation and our generations, we've just lived in a safe and secure world. We haven't lived through kind of wartime. And I think the government needs to do more, and I know they are looking at doing more, and ADS are working on that as well, to actually change the perceptions of what defence is. So I think there is a big perception challenge. I'm going to offer up a slightly different view that I'm going to say, I think defence has even bigger problem though, is not there is a recruitment problem, there is an attraction problem. I would say the biggest problem is an opportunity problem. So I've every defence company, certainly the big ones, who recruit early careers, they're recruiting great numbers at the moment. The number of applications they receive for their early careers programs is through the roof. I think there was one organisation the other day that said they had 60,000 applications for their early careers program last year. Now, what we talk about a lot in this sector is, there's a skill shortage. There's a skill shortage, or people aren't interested in STEM, or they're not interested in defence. I would argue that there's 60,000 people there that really are interested in defence. And I know it's the same from a lot of the other defence primes. So for me, what we've got here is a challenge whereby there are people that are interested in the sector. Yes, some of those people might not be suitable. Some of those people might not meet security requirements, but there's a lot more people interested in the sector who can't get the opportunity. So I would actually, I would controversially kind of add that I think defence has an opportunity problem, and that if defence created more opportunities for entry, whether that be early careers, whether that be mid-career and lateral entry, I think the defence sector would have a overwhelming interest. There's more we can do to build perception, but I think there's a real challenge there, that there are a lot of people that want to get in, but there just aren't the opportunities, and that becomes an investment challenge for organisations to actually create those opportunities and invest in, and then have the support mechanisms in the organisations to help those people through. And I think that's a challenge at the moment, because everybody's super busy delivering against their project milestones. Suddenly you get lots of new or junior people in, you haven't got the time to support them. So that is a real acute challenge, and I think that needs funding, it needs investment, and it needs a really big strategic plan in my mind.
No, completely agree. And just expanding on that, it's one thing, bringing those people in and having the opportunities for them, but also as people go through their careers and want to continue within our industry, finding the opportunities to keep them within our industry. I mean, I'm speaking from experience from a marketing perspective. There's very few marketing jobs in the UK in defence, so it's either try and find one of those, which are as rare as hen's teeth, or unfortunately leave the industry. So I'm lucky to still be here. So Rachel's put on the chat, which actually leads nicely on from what we were just saying. It's she said it's often mentioned how children in primary schools will be in jobs that don't even exist, they exist today but won't exist in the future. So there's a real focus on the skills for now versus the skills needed to gear up. So, is there an opportunity for us to be looking at hiring the skill sets needed versus the roles we think a given project needs now? So we're, rather than hiring for a specific job or a function, it's that we appreciate that we need these skills within defence. So we're going out and canvassing for those. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, that would be a really nice way to solve the challenge. And I agree, a lot of children, the skills that we talk about today don't necessarily, they might not be needed. I think early STEM engagement and an engagement with kids at schools is about creating curiosity, interest and passion about something, because actually if that is a passion for aeroplanes, or we see it a lot with the space sector. Tim Peake, when he went up to in space, that created a lot of people just very passionate about space. And I know certain people who only want to work in space. They almost don't care what the job is, because they just want to work in space. And I think if we can spark that curiosity and passion early to work with some of the innovative technology in defence, then that could be a big way to go. And yes, I think skills would be absolutely the way forward. I think the challenge is drawing that connection into the project needs now. And I think this is where what we're not in across the defence enterprise is a luxurious place where we can say, do you know what, we're going to hire for skills, because our projects are actually all good. We've got the funding, we've got the investment, we can pay for the skills. I think everything's always so lean, and what they need is, the skills would be good, but I really need somebody who can deliver this now. And I think we're always looking to the present rather than the future with the approach, and that's driven a lot by defence procurement and the way the investment comes through as well. Yeah,
definitely. But I guess actually Daryl in the chat sort of flipped that on its head slightly, which is what you were just alluding to. It's actually, so rather than hiring the future skills needed, should we be looking internally at the talent that we've got and the potential skill transfer we have there? And maybe it's through apprenticeships, graduate schemes, reskilling programs. So actually this internal talent pool that we're overlooking because we've pigeonholed them in that role. Shah, do you have any thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree with what Darryl just said there. There's going to be people in your organisation who have got those skills. So look at a secondment. The project's going to take a year. Look for a secondment. Can be seconded for the year. We're going to use your skills in this area to put this project, and you go back to your role. Could be that you've absolutely blossomed in that role and that secondment. Can we keep you in that role, and then someone else with the other skills go into your old role? Can you work internally? Can guarantee, and there'll be people there who want to have a go, or who haven't had that opportunity. You're saying about the opportunities before. Give people the opportunity from within, so then you can see where the real gaps are, and then you can start filling in those real gaps, because I can guarantee you never see what's right in front of your nose, as you say. So out within internally, can we upskill people? You've got that quiet person in the corner who's not confident enough, and all of a sudden they just boom, they absolutely thrive because you're giving them the right support, the right opportunity, the right mentor, the right leadership, and world domination is sorted.
Yeah, no, and actually it's really interesting because just looking through the chat, there's definitely a variation on all of these themes coming through. So it's obviously something that people are giving a lot of consideration to, and actually you could solve one of the major problem of that future workforce.
Just add, Louise, I think for me it's about pathways. It's about organisation having pathways to convert talent with adjacent skills or transferable skills. And I think there's a lot of great work happening out there in a lot of organisations at the moment. And that if you create the pathways, that's where you've got a huge opportunity to rebalance gender diversity as well. Because if you need 85,000 people, there's an opportunity there to bring better balance and diversity in with that as well. So I think it's all about having the pathways, because I think if you build the pathways, the people will come. If we work on the perception a little bit, and but it's not just the pathways, it's the support mechanisms once they're in those pathways to keep them there. That for me is, you can create training programs, but it's then giving them the support to thrive. And I think that's where industry's got a problem, because they haven't got enough people to support the people to thrive, because they need them on the projects, and that's a big challenge.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. Sorry, I just there's so much going on in the chat that the things I've just ring fenced have shifted. But yeah, and actually Darryl expands on that point. Just asking actually both of you if you've seen any sort of successful examples of attracting and retaining that diverse talent that we're wanting to bring in. I obviously, Shah, it's part and parcel of your role now at AWE, and Aidan, I'd imagine the same with MatchTech, is making sure that we've got that diverse range of CVs that are hitting the desk, that not just in terms of supporting minority groups within our industry, but also that diversity of skill set. So have you got any specific examples of of something that you've seen that's worked really well, that can give us all hope that these things are starting to take shape? Don't know who wants
do you want to go, or
first?
No, go on, you go first.
Okay, so I think what we're seeing so far is gender diversity, and all diversity is very much an organic approach to talent attraction. What I certainly am starting to see is there's more purposeful strategy to tackle increasing diversity across all areas. I think there's organisations out there, the likes of Code First Girls, that are really doing a great job of helping women into software engineering. We run a program called LEAP, which is all about building systems engineering capability, one of the biggest skill short areas in the defence sector. And what we're doing is we're creating new talent from transferable and adjacent skills. We're converting a lot of ex-military people with no systems engineering experience and building them careers. We've created 75 over the last 18 months. That hasn't had a gender diversity edge on it so far, but that's building. So we're in conversations with a large defence prime at the moment, whereby they're looking for a LEAP systems engineering capability builder program, but for women. For women to really tackle kind of that gender diversity full on rather than just the organic. So can I really say, do you know what, there's organizations nailing it out there and really nailing the diversity opportunities? No, but actually once the pathways are built, that's when you can then start saying, well, let's be more purposeful with our diversity strategy. Without the pathways, organizations tend to just be looking for somebody who's already been there, done it, and got the t-shirt, and unfortunately that pool is not very diverse, and then we're just creating a merry-go-round of the same resource. So for me, it's all about pathways. Then get the pathways, then you can overlay diversity strategy on top of that.
Yeah, no, that was definitely something that came out of yesterday's discussion as well. It's that often a prerequisite for any job application is you have industry experience. You're within, and well, that already goes from that to that, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Shah, anything to add on that? Have you got an example to give us optimism?
I think one thing for me, so it's not so much a practical initiative, and I go back to the support piece, is having the support in the workplace. So we've got a number of employee resource groups. So there's people there who know they've got support. There's someone they can talk to. They've got that. So they feel safe. There's a lot of not nice stuff going on, one in the world and two in the country at the moment. And we've got a lot of staff going, are we being looked after? Yes, you've been looked after. You've got that support. You've got people to talk to. We've got our well-being. And then when people feel supported and they feel they belong at a company, that's where your retention stays. They're not looking for an out. So it's having that backbone. Yes, have those pathways, like Aidan said. If someone can put their career pathway and they've got a vision of, right, I know I can do this. If I do this, I can go here, and I got that pathway, fab. But if you haven't got that warm hug, those supportive shoulders, and those people supporting you, the right policies and everything like that. So it's not sort of practical initiatives. It is have you got the right leave? Have you got carers leave? Reasonable adjustments in place just helps people within the workplace to be able to follow that pathway. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what their background is. We talk about diversity. So I work in Reading. Tell by my accent, I'm not from Berkshire or Reading at all. But there we go. I live the other side of the bridge. But so it's diversity of thought, not just background. So I think that support mechanism and those things we've got in place that make people feel safe. So when they come to work, they can be their true selves, the authentic selves. They can give the absolute best. So then that's where the retention is. And one of the things that's come in at the moment, we talk about gender balance and equality. We've got the menopause action plans coming in. I am of a brain farting all the way through because I can't get what words out because of perimenopause. Absolutely put my hands up to that. And in a heat wave, things need to change in an office. If your office hasn't got air conditioning, you haven't got fans, and you're having a flash and you have a heat wave, all of a sudden Charlotte's very grumpy. Just warn it. So it's all sorts of support things in place to be able to have people to be absolutely amazing and do their jobs, and then that's how we retain them, by having those basic things, basically.
Yeah, no, great, thank you. Some fantastic discussion around the retention piece, and I couldn't agree more with what you're saying about pathways and the sense of belonging is so important. And yeah, unfortunately, speaking from a majority of experience so far, that's a slow burner. It doesn't seem to be sort of the culture and the ethos in many companies yet, but we'll get there. But taking a step back and looking more at the attraction piece, I'm keen to hear from both of you sort of what motivated you to enter our industry, what motivated you to work in defence. Because for me, speaking completely frankly, I fell into the industry. It was not a plan at all. And it was actually talking about transferable skills. Marketing can be applied to everything, right? And I just happened to see a job being advertised in the local area, thought that looked interesting. So I went for it. And that was 8 years ago. Haven't looked back and would never want to leave because I absolutely love it here. But that was by chance and accident. I've been interested to hear what your paths were, and actually what you think would motivate people to enter our industry today. So, Aidan, do you want to take the lead on that one?
Yeah. So for me, so my dad was in the Royal Navy. So I guess coming from a forces family, I have a lot of fond memories of going to defence events. I think the Royal International Tournament, watching a field gun, and going to Families Day where you'd go out on the ship. I remember once he took me into dry dock to look around the ship one Saturday morning, and I was just so grumpy because I'd rather have been playing football. Yet now I'd absolutely love to go and have a look at that. So for me, but equally, I'd say I fell into it, but I fell into it with a bit of an affinity for what the sector was about, and a little bit of pride, really, coming from those sort of family origins. So I think, yeah, that was me. But how do we get more people? I think it is about raising awareness, as Shah talked earlier on. I think it's about raising awareness as to what the sector's about. Actually, defence does so much to keep us safe, and I think we all do take for granted that we can sleep at night without having to jump into an air raid shelter, or without missiles flowing down, and that's defence that kind of keeps that for us. So I think for me, it's about really bringing home and tapping into some of the emotional elements that we maybe do take for granted as a bit of a nation because we've been in peacetime for so long, and bringing that to life so people can then really feel the purpose. We know that purpose is absolutely critical to get people interested in work, feel passionate about it, but also keep them in it for the longer term as well. So I think there's just more we need to do around that.
Yeah, great, thank you. Shah, your journey first, and then what we can do to motivate people.
So I got two journeys. My previous career, 22 years in the Air Force, kind of fell into that a little bit as well, to be honest. Born and bred in Swansea in South Wales. Didn't think I was clever enough. I didn't do very well at school. Turns out ADHD had something to do with that. So I was always distracted. Now I work to my strengths with my creativity and the stuff like that. But so I went into the Armed Forces Careers Office and said, where can I? So I tried out for the aptitude test for Air Force. Thought nothing of it. Didn't think I was clever enough. I got in as an aircraft engineer, weapon systems. So I did anything to do with explosives and weapons and things like that. Did an apprenticeship, and I would say apprenticeship was best way for how my brain works. Was absolutely brilliant because it's love on the job. There's a lot of practical. It's a lot. So you show me, then I did, and I that's the way I learned. And then you get the rest of it. So I've got NVQ, then I moved on to HND within engineering, and then had a choice, which is this pathway piece that Ada was talking about. So I went down, instead of going full down the engineering route to maybe engineering officer or anything like that, decided to go down a different pathway of mentoring and leadership. So I was doing mentoring and coaching and things like that. So I went down that pathway instead. 22 years later, Shah's then going, oh, okay. So yes, it was defence. I had uniform on. I did anything with weapons. So the aircraft has been to lots of different places in the world, and I followed and did my bit. And that was our purpose. So when I was leaving, and this is the transferable bit, and I just been reading the chat about transferable skills. Absolutely, the amount of skills in the military that I learned that I thought I could only do for that one role can transfer across into civilian street. So the fact that I'm not a project manager, but I could pack up a squadron within 48 hours with all our kit ready to go on hurricane relief in the Caribbean. Thought nothing of it, but the things I had to do for that, I can do in the role, some of the roles I'm doing now. So it's having that open mind to go, what did I do? What were the skills? Not the role, not the name. What were the skills? What do they have to do? I had to be organised, had to be forward thinking, had to think, and I use my SMEs, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that brought me then into the real world, out of the military world into civilian street, and I needed that sense of purpose. When I first left the military, I literally had no clue what to do, because all I knew for 22 years, almost those words people say institutionalized, I was almost institutionalized because I only had that way. I didn't have to decide what to wear in the mornings because I put a uniform on. Now, oh my word, my wardrobe is massive because I go wear something nice to work. Anyway, but then it's having those skills going across, and it's that purpose. That's back to that motivation piece. Why did I go back into defence? Because I want to be doing my piece, because I did my bit for 22 years and it's ingrained into me. And I was so proud to serve in the Air Force, so proud to be a veteran. That defence was the next best thing, because I got that sense of purpose. What I'm doing now supports people to go into defence of the UK and its allies. So that was my motivation in two guises.
Wow. So what I'm hearing then, obviously the purpose is the key here, and we're all very passionate about it because we live and breathe it. How do we raise the profile of the meaning of that, so that it attract people in from outside of our industry, so that they can get a taste for that, and why that mission is so vital for us. Because I think once you're hooked in, you're hooked in. I don't know many people who leave the industry, out of choice, to be honest with you. So once you're here, and then we've got all of that wealth of transferable skills that we can all use to our advantage. But so I guess that leads nicely into another question that I had around engaging with people who may have never considered working in defence before, and that's probably a large proportion of the population, short of seeing the armed forces recruitment adverts on TV. That's probably the only exposure they've had to the sector recruiting. So I don't know. I mean, I guess coming from each of your personal angles, when you explain to people that you work in defence and the roles that you have now, how do you portray that? Like, what's your elevator pitch for defence, I guess? Aidan, do you want to go first?
I think it's a really interesting question, because what I actually see, maybe there's different parts of the country. So I live near Portsmouth, so it's a very naval area, and therefore actually a lot of people I know, friends are ex-Navy and kind of understand the defence sector. What I actually see is a lot of people dumbing down that elevator pitch when they work in defence, because there's a concern as to how people might feel and react to that, which I think is a real shame. I think we need to be proud about the industry we work in and educate on it, as opposed to go into a shell and not really talk about it. I think for me, I'd look at this as an industry level. I think we need to change the narrative. So again, stemming from the Strategic Defence Review, there's some good work happening at the moment around creating the equivalent of Destination Nuclear. Was a big program to inform people about what the nuclear industry was and how can we attract people into the nuclear industry to cover the skills shortage. Defence is taking a leaf out of that book, and there's a big piece of work driven by SDR into kind of creating that. I think another example would be, at the moment, I don't think it's live yet, if you were to go onto the UCAS website, and if we look at early careers people, and maybe the connotations that come with defence, I don't know, it's either somebody in overalls with a spanner or it's somebody in uniform. And what there isn't is enough content out there to actually, in the areas that either younger people or people that might be curious or just looking at what do I do with my career or what do I do with my life, there's not enough out there promoting defence. So UCAS at the moment, if you want to work, I think, in the rail industry or other industries, you can go on there and discover what it's actually really like. But at the moment, if you go on UCAS and want to discover what the defence industry looks like, there isn't anything. And actually, maybe there's a little bit nervousness of having defence on there because of actually, understandably, some of the challenge of perceptions with university students at the moment. So for me, it's all about getting good information out there that actually educates people on. You just talked about it there, Shah. You worked in the defence sector, but you were doing hurricane relief work. I mean, that's amazing. And people don't think of that. So what we've got to do is just broaden the horizons of people's perceptions as to what it is. But that needs to be industry teaming together, and that needs to be government supporting that narrative as well.
Yeah, completely agree. Shah,
yeah, it goes to perception again. It's not all about firing missiles. And you look at adverts. It's all, I said, it's either someone holding a spanner for for the engineering side in uniform with a weapon, or a picture of an aircraft with weapons on, or a Navy ship firing off a missile, or very aggressive, thinking, right, this is what you need to be. It hasn't got a picture of the people again, HR professionals, your legal, your finance, your project managers, the core of how we get these projects up and going and fulfilled, to be able to fit those ships out, maybe to be able to fit those aircraft out, to be able to get those people in different areas and supported. So elevator pitches, more to defence than spanners and uniforms. There's absolutely everything. And I think the hard thing is, because defence companies are so broad and so many of them, can't be yes, it comes under the umbrella of defence, but to make it attractive, so we all, and that same one doesn't work. So might be a bit down to the marketing of different companies going, yes, we're part of defence, and this is what we do, and this is our why. This is why we do it. This the why, is the connecting with people, the why, not the what we make is going to go and do this. Will be a part that goes on another part, which goes on something else, but it's still part of defence. Why we do it, because, and it's connected with people that way, maybe. So it's more an not individual company, different parts of the sector, but that broad umbrella, I don't think we can do an elevator pitch for without it being spanners, weapons, and uniforms of some stage, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, look, as you both said, it's that human element. I guess it's drawing on imagery that reflects people back to themselves, so that they can go, oh wow, or looking at promoting role models within the industry, because as soon as people see someone like them or who they would aspire to be, that automatically makes it accessible and makes it something that they want to explore. So less focus on equipment, more focus on people.
I think just building on that, though, for me, that's one of the reasons why I love the work I do with Women in Defence Charter, because unfortunately, I'm sure this week, I haven't been to Farnborough yet, but at Farnborough, I'm sure there's a lot of speak openly men who have grey beards or bald heads, and actually that's a little bit, when you look out, that's what you see. And I think the whole drive of getting to gender diversity of 30% by 2030, and actually the awards that Women in Defence do to create those stories of inspirational characters, that's so important to not only attract people, but also attract people that might be curious about defence, like the purpose of it, but then think, oh, but there's nobody there that's like me. So I think there is a two-pronged element to that, and I think that's where Women in Defence do a lot of great work.
Yeah,
if you can't see it, you can't be it.
Agree.
No, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And as you said, majority defence is male dominated. I worked in male dominated trade 22 years, but those are some of the loudest voices. So I can stand in the corner, bang my tambourine and wave my flags as much as I want. But then as soon as a male colleague said, oh, you need to have Shah on your team, she's amazing, does this, that, people listened, because sometimes they've got the loudest voices, because they've got the bigger audience, because they're, middle-aged white male. And that works. We need those allies. We need those people. We need people speaking up to say, this person is amazing for their skills. It doesn't matter what their gender is or how they identify. You're the skills. This person's got skills. You need them in the team. And those voices need to be louder, rather than quietly to your friend next door, scream and shout it. We need those loud voices, for equality.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we all have a responsibility to speak up if we feel that that's not the case. So I feel like we've done a fantastic discussion around the attraction piece. We talked about the development in terms of the pathways, the transferable skill sets, the retention piece in terms of creating a sense of belonging, and speaking up, and putting people forward where we feel that they have more value to add. I guess my final question, just as we start to sort of wrap the session up, will be, if we held this discussion in 5 years' time, what will success look like? Do you think we'll still be having the same conversation? Will we have solved it all and be talking about something else? What does success look like to you if you roll forward 5 years? Shah, I'm going to go with you first.
What does success look like? My job wouldn't exist.
Okay.
My job, the first thing people think about is, we want the best person for the job. It doesn't matter about the background or anything like that. So I hope it does exist, because I'm too young to retire.
But you've got transferable skills. So
I have got my transferable skills. I'll be going into training and development. Or me, my sparkly jacket and a microphone, and we'll just go around and host a lot of stuff. Security clearance, security was so much easier. So that's one of the big things. So it doesn't take so long to get security clearance. I think that will be a success, because that is one of our biggest barriers, I think, within defence piece. And faster recruitment. Faster recruitment processes. We get people in as soon as having to wait. You're in. You've got a couple of things go on, and you're in the door. And let's get you started. Let's get you doing what you're amazing at.
Yeah. Right.
For me, it probably comes back to that original question about workforce readiness, and then some of the themes that we've touched on today. For me, we can only really create true workforce readiness and resilience if we've got pathways to create, build, and flex capability. So what we need, for me, is industry-wide pathways for people to pivot, transfer, learn, and develop to meet new capabilities and new demands. And if we can do that, I think defence becomes even more fun to work in, because you don't just have to do one career. You can join defence and try lots of different things and have a lot of different, you can develop in different ways and do lots of different fun things and never get bored. And that way we can then truly meet our workforce readiness that we truly probably might need.
Yeah, because we do that for graduates. Why couldn't we do that for people in later stages of their career?
Exactly that. Exactly that. And there was, I saw in the chat actually, Laura mentioned this, and I think it's a fantastic thing. So if anyone hasn't seen it, but Babcock did an amazing piece of work where they had a huge shortage of welders. So they had a workforce challenge down in Plymouth, and they also had a diversity challenge within that talent pool in their organisation. And what they did is they looked at where could they recruit from. And what they identified was that it would be a great opportunity for hairdressers. They have a lot of fine motor skills. Their hand-eye coordination is very good. And what they actually did is they created a fun way of attracting these people by creating a virtual reality kind of welding assessment day. And they recruited a load of hairdressers into the welding team. And I just think we need to think more outside the box with those pathways. And that could be a hairdresser that's been a hairdresser for 10 years or 1 year or 40 years. It doesn't matter. And that for me is, if you've got the pathways, it's not about early careers anymore. This is just about career pathways. And I think that'd be the utopia.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a classic case of completely throwing the rule book out and thinking of things differently.
So simple, but so brilliant, isn't it? And now we've solved the welding problem.
That's absolutely skill and not role, isn't it?
100%.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Skill and not role. Yeah, I've got the skills. It doesn't matter what the role is. Yeah.
Yeah, just thinking logically about stuff and opening up some more doors. Yeah, I'm all for that. No, that's great. Thanks for sharing. Cool. Okay. Well, I mean, like I said before everyone joined, that we could have this discussion for 10 hours and still not really feel like we've scratched the surface. But saying that, in 55 minutes, I feel like we've made some good ground there. I feel there's lots of food for thought. Like I said, we have recorded the session, so we will be making the recording available for today and yesterday. So if as and when they become available, I do encourage you to revisit this one. Watch the rich discussion from yesterday and take the lessons maybe that you can learn from them and apply them within your own organizations, because that's what's going to start driving the change. People like you all taking the time to be involved in these discussions and being the change makers within your organization. So really do appreciate that. I think all that's left for me to say is to keep the conversation going, like I've just said. You can do that also by joining the socials of Women in Defence UK and the Women in Defence Charter. That's likely where these recordings will be made available, so do like, comment and share. I want to say a huge thank you to our panelists, Shah and Aidan. Fantastic discussion, really rich perspectives and experience to build on. So thank you very much for sharing honestly and transparently with us your experiences to date and how we can build on those. And our fantastic audience for being so interactive. It's really great. I didn't get to all of the points, so apologies for that, but really great insights, and I will read through the chat after this and put those forward for future discussion topics. So thank you all. It's been great. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and hopefully I'll see you all soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Louise. Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.